We're in the city of Burgos. Yeah, about, almost 200 miles in.
Somewhere between 175 and 200.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
And we thought it would be a good time to just do some basic review of some stuff. So, one, a day in the life. Okay, a day in the life. Here's what it's like. You wake up in the morning, more often than not in a room full of other people from other countries and a bunch of bunk beds. And I don't know, 6 a.m.?
Yeah, about 6 a.m. And yeah, usually you're trying to pack up. You start packing up your stuff real quietly because there's still people trying to sleep. Or maybe somebody got up before you did and they're doing the same thing, trying to pack up quietly. Sometimes they do it better than other times.
So you pack everything up, and for us, we found that it's best to just start walking and then hope that there is another little village within 5K. Everything's kilometers here, so within 5K to sit down and have your breakfast and coffee.
Yeah, a lot of times the albergues that you stay at have a breakfast, but really all the breakfast is like some toast and just a loaf of bread and maybe coffee. Mm-hmm. Sometimes a few places just put out a jar of Nescafe.
And we're like, no.
Yeah.
So breakfast. Because we're vegetarian, we have a lot fewer options. It's very much a ham-forward place. They love their ham and their bacon, ham on everything. But what we've been doing is eating a lot more eggs and bread than we typically do. So we have the traditional tortilla. And no, it's not a flat bread thing, like you you make a burrito with a tortilla. Here, a tortilla is basically like a quiche without a crust. And it's eggs and potatoes, and sometimes it has cheese. And you get it in a slice, like a pie slice, with a chunk of baguette. And that's your breakfast with a cup of coffee.
Yep. Yeah, the coffee's great, but it's small servings. They usually do espresso, so we just get Americanos, and it's just about a cup.
Yeah, we could probably have like 6 of them.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we order Zumo, Z-U-M-O, which is juice. And here, almost everywhere you go, there's this machine where they drop fresh oranges in and it squeezes the orange juice. So it's amazing. Probably the best thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So we're carrying around with us a packet of a mix of super green powder and vegan vanilla protein powder given to us from Sun Warrior, which is awesome. And that helps us make sure that we get enough protein and that we're getting vegetables, because vegetables are incredibly hard to find here, anything green. So we put a scoop of that into our fresh orange juice in the morning, and there you go.
It's very good.
After breakfast, we're usually in some tiny little village that has, a lot of the villages have, 32 people that live there, or 300 people that live there, very tiny. And a bunch of peregrinos or pilgrims that are walking the Camino. And together, you finish breakfast and you grab your pack and you hit the road again. And then you walk. We typically walk for about 2 hours before we take a break for lunch or a snack or something.
Yep. So leaving town, there's usually just a line of other pilgrims just walking along, going the same direction, same place.
And it's interesting because you kind of have like for a few days you'll walk sort of in a pod where you're kind of leapfrogging, you know, like you're ahead and then you're behind and then you're ahead and you're behind for a couple days, and then we're going a little bit slower than the book tells you to do because of my injuries. So we've sort of been in a couple different little pods of peregrinos. We have this really nice couple that we've met. They don't speak much English and we don't speak any German, and they're German. They're a little bit older than us, probably the age of our parents. And it's so funny because every time we turn around, there they are in front of us. And so when we see them, they're like, hey, we tell them, hey, you're always in front of us. And they laugh and they laugh. Well, a few days have gone by, and I wonder if they looked it up on how to say it in English. And I said, you're always in front of us. And the guy looks to us and he says, you're always at the bar.
Yeah.
So now,
They have passed by a couple times when we're like sitting outside of a cafe just having our coffee, and they go walking by and they give us a big wave and we wave at them. That's pretty funny.
So when we stop for lunch, we are either having fruit or something that we've packed in our bags, or we stop into some place for something to eat, and it's usually like a tiny little cafe. Around here, every place is a cafe and bar. So you walk in and there is a counter, and they have already sandwiches and different things made up, and you just choose one of what they have. Most of the things have ham, and we try to find something that might have peppers. That's kind of the only vegetable that we typically can find. If not, then we have a vegetarian sandwich, which is basically cheese and bread, and sometimes, if you're lucky, some olive oil. So it's like kind of a dry baguette, sort of a bread.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah. And that's our lunch. Maybe a banana.
After lunch, we usually we'll look in one of our guidebooks and see where we're gonna try to end up the day.
You were sitting on it.
I was sitting on the guidebook. Oh, yeah.
There it is.
And so, we'll typically look at what's like 2 or 3 hours down the road, and then we'll try to give that albergue a call. Because you don't want to get there and have it be full. We've heard stories of a couple people who they get into town, try to get a room, and they didn't have anything available. And these 2 women ended up having to sleep down by the river.
Yeah, they've had some stories about like they were just given a blanket and they had to like sleep outside under kind of like a outdoor gymnasium, so it was like a cement ground.
Yeah, I don't think that happens often, but yeah, it happened to them. So we don't want it to happen to us. So we try to call ahead, and it just kind of eases the pressure for the rest of the day. If you know you have some place to stay, you can kind of take your time a little bit more. And
in the guidebooks, it kind of lists a few different things. There's albergues, which are specifically designed for pilgrims. You arrive, it's one price. Sometimes it includes dinner, sometimes not. Sometimes it includes breakfast, sometimes not. And it kind of lists a couple of basic things like how many beds it has. And what we've decided is that the municipal albergues are the biggest, and sometimes there's like 30 beds in a room or even 100 beds in a room, and those are also the ones that are like the dirtiest, and there's a lot more like bed bugs that are going around, and it's just like totally gross when you think about dozens of people arriving at the same time, and they're all sweaty with varying types of hygiene practices, and you're all sharing the same shower. It's that's honestly one of the hardest parts for me. So what we've decided is that we prefer to stay in the smaller albergues, even if it means paying a few more euro, because there's less people using the showers and you're more likely to be in a room with like 6 people, you know, or sometimes you can even pay an extra $5 per person and you can have your own room. So we've had some of the most amazing albergues that are like high-end bed and breakfast situations where you have a family cooking a meal and everything's so clean and it's so nice, and other times that it's like you go into someone's house and it is creepy and you just try to just go in and sleep and get out.
You're never sure what you're gonna get. So yeah, what typically happens when you arrive at the albergue, you check in, you have what's known as a pilgrim passport, and which they stamp at every place you go to. So they just give the stamp of their albergue. Everybody has a different stamp, and at the end of the trip, we're gonna have this big long passport with a bunch of stamps on it, and that'll look pretty cool. And so yeah, you get there, you go up to you select your bunk.
Or sometimes they're assigned to you.
Yeah. And then usually we'll just immediately take a shower and then kind of gather your clothes together, and if they have any kind of laundry service, like a machine, use the machine. Otherwise you do end up doing some by hand. Just then they might have a big sink and then everybody's hanging their laundry outside in the sun.
About, I would say, less than a third have laundry services where you can hand them your clothes. Mostly, if it's a sunny day and you're there early enough and you think that your clothes will dry in time, then you can go ahead and wash them by hand and hang them outside. But a few times we've just decided it's too late, because it sucks in the morning. Like, you have to decide, do you want to put on that stinky sweaty clothes or the wet clothes, for the day. So a few times we're just like, screw it, we're not doing it today. It's like when you arrive at the albergue, everybody wants to take a shower, so there's kind of a mad dash. We've also learned that maybe there's a benefit to being a little bit slower, or maybe not slower, but stopping before the big end of the day town. So in the books it has suggestions, go from this town to this town in one day. So a lot of people follow exactly those rules, which means there's a mad dash at the end and the albergues are overcrowded, and what we've been doing is kind of stopping a little bit before it, so we're not staying at the busiest albergue. And if I had one big advice for people, is don't follow the guide exactly, because you're better off being slightly off. You have better choices of places to stay. Okay, so after you washed your clothes, you hopefully have clean clothes on, and you washed yourself up. You go try to find a bar and to have a drink and just kind of sit. And it's interesting because if you're in a tiny town and they cater to pilgrims, then they're open. But in Spain, the open hours for establishments like businesses is very different than the US. They're open just a couple of hours in the morning, a couple of hours in the afternoon, and then really, really late at night, because everyone observes a siesta time. So basically from, would you say 2 to 7?
Yeah, like 2 to 7.
Everything's closed. 2 to 7, it's just, so do your best to either keep some snacks in your pack, or find a place that caters to pilgrims, and then you can get, I started really appreciating a tinto de verano, which means the red wine of summer. And basically it's like cheap wine with a bunch of Kas, K-A-S, soda. It's like lemon lime soda with a lemon in it. And it's like refreshing and it's sweet. And I have a couple of those at the end of the day. And you kind of hang out because dinner is always at 7. Sometimes it's 6 on a rare occasion, but basically dinner is at 7.
Yeah, and the dinners we either get at a restaurant in town, or a lot of times when you're staying at an albergue, they have what they call a pilgrim meal. And so everybody who's staying, which is kind of nice because everybody who's staying at the albergue will then kind of sit down and have a big group meal. And a lot of the places are pretty. We've had some good vegetarian meals there. Sometimes they're homemade stuff, and yeah, they'll make some veggie stuff for you.
But there's mostly for vegetarian, it would be stuff without protein. So it's a good idea again to have nuts in your pack. We actually got a can of lentils one time and ate out of the can. But in general, like a vegetarian meal is often like a salad or some pasta with a tomato sauce. Sometimes some soup. But there's no like alternative protein. You know, like there's no beans or tofu or tempeh, like all those other kinds of things. So sometimes I found I get a little bit cranky when I'm a little bit low on protein. So we're kind of always chomping on nuts. Which, by the way, the cacahuates, which is how you say peanut in Spanish, they're made, I don't know what it is about the peanuts here.
They're great.
They're freaking awesome.
Yeah. Have you seen my beard?
You're really grown it in.
uh-huh.
Have you seen my chin hairs? I didn't bring any tweezers.
Oh, we both got
Roughing it.
Yeah. Oh. The camera's on.
Oh yes. So you may have noticed that on some of our videos, I've been including people talking about the Camino in their
native language.
In their native language. Because what we've found is that we're traveling the Camino with so many different people from so many different countries, and it's really been amazing to be in such an international community, and hearing people, like the chatter in the background is always in so many different languages, and even if you don't know what they're saying, it's really pretty and nice to hear people speak in their language. And so we kind of have this little running list of all the people that we've met from what country they're from. And so far we've met people from Hungary, Spain, Italy, Germany, England, Croatia, Korea, Japan, Ireland, Israel, France, Sri Lanka, Canada, South Africa, Denmark, all over the United States, Australia, New Zealand, Belgium, and Bulgaria. So
we might have missed a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weather so far has, for the most part, in my opinion, has been pretty good. We've only got rained on once. Sometimes in the afternoons you'll get like a thunderstorm coming through, and we did get caught in one day, just for like an hour or two before we made it to the albergue, and then it started pouring, so it's good thing we weren't out there. But typically the day will be cool, the nights are cool. We wake up early in the morning, it's kind of cool and a little cloudy, and that's a great time to get some mileage in hiking wise.
It's been some days have made it up to the 90s, but I would say it's been mostly between 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I mean it gets hot in the afternoons. It gets pretty hot, and so it's a good idea. That's why another reason we like to start really early in the morning, is we can get most of our hiking done in the cool weather, and then hopefully we're at an albergue by 2 or 3 when it starts to get really beaten down hot in the middle of the day.
We have so many sunburns and tan lines and everything. It's like the other day, in the morning you try to like just cover yourself in sunscreen. But when you're like walking uphill consistently for like 2 hours, I mean, I was just like pouring down sweat, and I'm like, I guess I sweat off all the sunscreen, and then by lunchtime I already have a really bad sunburn. I'm kind of fair skinned. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. I didn't think it was hot enough because it was overcast, and I have a pretty good sunburn on like the part of my hair. That kind of hurts. But he just turns tan.
Pretty nice.
Before we left, we did some gear reviews. We did like a what's in our backpack, his backpack review, my shoes, stuff like that. What we're going to do is when we get back in October, we're going to go through and actually talk about everything we brought and what worked and what didn't. Mm-hmm. We've definitely had some strong opinions where we thought it was going to be one way and then turned out to be another. And so stay tuned for that. Well, I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to everybody for following us as we are on this journey. It's been pretty fun to be filming all of this and learning how to edit and everything just with our phones. And a bunch of people have been sending us emails and Facebook messages and asking us questions. And don't be afraid to comment in the comment section and like, and please share on your social media, because we'd really love to grow our community of people that are following us, and so you all can live vicariously. We have also been using original tunes from different people that have volunteered to share their music with us, which has been awesome. So thanks for that. And if you are a musician or somebody that you know, feel free to send us your MP3 files at caminofilmproject@gmail.com, and I'd love to use your music in our future videos. So
yeah,
thank you. And yeah,
Gracias.
We'll continue doing our thing and check in back with you later.
Bye.
Bye. Buen camino.